Could you describe for us the events that took place in that movie theater in Aurora, and in light of the high-capacity magazine that the shooter had, and what you think might have been different had that weapon not existed? In your case, and if you have information to share about other cases, if you could discuss them as well.
Senator, I want to touch on three different instances of mass shooting where I think a high-capacity magazine had tragic consequences. I do need to be careful in discussing the Aurora theater shooting, and so I'm going to be very
No,
very
we understand
specific.
that. You have restrictions that arise with your duties, and I appreciate that.
In the Aurora theater shooting, a matter of public record is that the shooting that resulted in 12 dead and 58 wounded took place within the scope of 90 seconds. The fact that there were high-capacity magazines in play during that time was obviously material. In the Newtown shooting, the information that I have is that all of the shooting took place in less than 4 minutes. Again, in that case, high-capacity magazines were used. In the Tucson, Arizona shooting of 2 years ago, 2 years and some, there were high-capacity magazines, and it was after a 30-round magazine was expended by the shooter that really, frankly, heroic bystanders were able to tackle him and stop the shooting. You have to wonder, if he had only had a 10-round clip, whether lives would have been saved. There's certainly evidence in that situation to suggest lives would have been saved. These events happen very quickly. There is no way that we are going to prevent people from engaging in these sorts of attacks completely. We do not have a crystal ball that enables us to see into the mind of an individual who might be bent on this kind of horror. What we can do, and what I think this legislation helps us do, by limiting and banning high-capacity magazines, is we can limit the damage and the tragedy and the horrific casualties that those people cause when they undertake these sorts of actions.
And my final question, when you consider the amount of damage that was done in these very, very narrow time frames, 90 seconds or 4 minutes, how realistic do you believe that adding armed guards to schools is at responding to and intervening in such a sudden and deadly attack?
Senator, I don't want to rule out the potential value that a particular local school board might put on having an armed guard. There are certainly situations where you can imagine it being of assistance. It is hard to see, though, that armed guards are going to solve this problem if they are confronting someone with the sort of armaments that so tragically we saw both in Aurora and also in Newtown. And it's worth mentioning, too, the schools are maybe the most horrible example of where mass shootings take place, but they're not the only places. And unless we're going to have armed guards in every
You know all too well. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you, Chairman.
Thank you very much.